particularly in the rural areas and all these things. My request, if you can highlight on some of initiative taken by him using optical fiber in the rural areas. Over.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. And having given me this opportunity to share as to what all can be done with optical fiber. A few things on regulation and maybe on policy. I do not know whether it has been discussed, but of course if it has been discussed, at the cost of repetition. ROW, everybody is concerned of. The charming lady to my right, I think she is from Sterlite, she also mentioned about ROW. And everybody is mentioning about the difficulties in getting an ROW. In the last 1.5 years, in spite of all the odds, we have laid about 40,000 kilometers of optical fiber in state of Maharashtra and have connected 15,507 gram panchayats and have also deployed some micro ducts also in some of the villages. It has been a nightmare, I tell you. Having invested about 3,500 crores in a span of 18 months in a government setup, subject to CAG, subject to CVC, subject to CBI, is not a joke. We have really poured our blood into this whole project. And as far as ROW is concerned, that has been the biggest menace of this whole process of, excuse me for using these kinds of superlatives for this whole process. It has been a menace, I tell you. And it's not only an administrative menace, the cost is prohibitive, and prohibitive to the extent with limited study which I have done is highest in the world. Can you believe this? And this is the country which has the lowest per capita fiber existence and consumption in the world, among the lowest. And irony is that we have climbed to the top position of data consumption. इतनी सब व्याधियों के बाद भी, इतनी स्टीपल चेस के बाद भी, अगर हम एशिया या ओलंपिक्स में गोल्ड जीत सकते हैं या ओलंपिक में जा सकते हैं, 1.5 साल में अगर हम 40,000 किलोमीटर केवल हम डाल सकते हैं, तो स्टरलाइट तो निश्चित रूप से 5 लाख किलोमीटर डाल देगा. नहीं डाल सकते आपके पास तो ना CVC है, ना CBI है, ना CAG है, ना सरकारी कोई रेगुलेशन है, ना कोई किताब है. तो और अगर उसके बाद भी स्टरलाइट ना डाल पाए या एयरटेल ना डाल पाए या कंबाइन ऑफ आइडिया एंड वोडा ना डाल पाए या ना डाल पाया है अभी तक, मुझे नहीं पता क्या कारण है उसका. साथ नहीं, वो कैसे लेते हैं उस पर अगर हम चर्चा न करें तो ही अच्छा है. 7 लाख किलोमीटर फाइबर मेरे पास ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करता है. 3 लाख किलोमीटर फाइबर हमने 2 साल में और डाला और लगभग 3 लाख किलोमीटर डालने की मैंडेट हमें दी गई है कि 10 महीने में डाल दो. तो अब आई डोंट नो, we are generating all kinds of innovative methods of generating these ducts in the country, all kinds of innovations, unbelievable, unthought of so far. अब सवाल आता है ये फाइबर हमें चाहिए. There is a session in the second half where I'll be saying a few more things on densification or fiberization, etc., etc. But only to flag an issue and flag a point and to bring in a bit of more seriousness by the regulator, by the government and by the policymaker is, unless optical fiber is given the status of an infrastructure, just like highways, just like roads, just like water supply, just like sanitation, just like right to clean air, just like right to education, just like right to health services, and unless penal provisions are made for not enabling the expansion of optical fiber, all whatever we have been talking here will just remain a lip service. Having said this, जितना फाइबर हम लोगों ने ले किया है अभी तक, और ग्राम पंचायत में जब हम फाइबर लेके जाते हैं तो 1 बीघा की कीमत अगर 2 लाख रुपया एकड़ है, मैं मेरे गांव की बात बताता हूँ. मेरे को समझ में नहीं आया कि कई लोगों ने मुझसे कहा कि ज़मीन खरीद लो. मैंने कहा इतने पैसे तो है नहीं. बोले 10 लाख रुपए तो होंगे. मैंने कहा हाँ 10 तो हैं, फलानी जगह खरीद लो. मैंने कहा क्या करूँगा गांव में ज़मीन खरीद के. बहुत सारे लोगों ने ज़मीन खरीदी. और आपको जान के ताज्जुब होगा कि जैसे ही फाइबर ले हुआ और ग्राम पंचायत में फाइबर लेट हुआ, 2 लाख रुपए बीघा से बढ़ के वो 15 लाख रुपया बीघा हो गई वो जमीन। 2 लाख रुपया से बढ़ के 15 लाख रुपया बीघा हो गई मेरे गांव की जमीन। तो ऑप्टिकल फाइबर इज मोर देन इट्स वेट इन द मोर देन गोल्ड और मोर देन एनी अदर प्रेशियस मेटल यू कैन थिंक ऑफ। आने वाले समय में ये एक गेम चेंजर तो होने ही वाला है। तो हमने ये जो फाइबर ले करी और उससे ये जो मैंने आपको एक बताया, अब ये कितना स्पेकुलेटिव है या इसमें कितनी रियलिटी है, वेदर इट एक्चुअली ट्रांसलेट इनटू दैट काइंड ऑफ लिक्विडिटी, आई एम नॉट श्योर अबाउट इट। लेकिन फाइबर ले करने के बाद इसको डिप्लॉय करने के लिए फिर यूज़ केसेस जनरेट करने के लिए हम लोगों ने इसमें बहुत इनोवेशन किया भारत संचार ने। वी हैव अ सेटअप हियर विच गिव्स यू अ गुड इंसाइट ऑफ all the entire gamut of carrier grade equipment, carrier grade optical fiber, carrier grade innovations of utilizing that optical fiber. It has been hitherto unheard of to be providing a sort of MPLS connectivity in a Gram Panchayat using this kind of a fiber network. You will be surprised to know that we have rolled out and deployed photonics and optical transport mechanism in the transport sector. Transport sector, when I say not Tata ka truck ya Leland, it is transport in data, transport in optical fiber communication, have deployed right up to the Gram Panchayat and have even crossed Gram Panchayat in some of the areas where government user network is going to ride on this. BSNL happens to be the custodian of this network. And this whole data communication rides on BSNL's backbone, which has been upgraded to state of art and world class, which is optical transport capable and has capabilities of photonics and built into this. So MPLS जैसी चीज़ें, ILL जैसी चीज़ें, a combination of copper, fiber and wireless. A combination of copper, fiber and wireless has also been deployed and put to good commercial use. Of course, all this has gone into the uses for education, health services, fisheries, then welfare of tribal people, then maybe we have taken education and health services to tribal hostels and to far-flung barriers, to far-flung areas where you will even not find drinking water. Maybe many times you don't find even electricity. So we have even evolved and innovated devices and mechanisms which will work without power. But dark fiber में भी बहुत ताकत है. It's not only need to be lit. Sometimes non-lit fiber also is very, very powerful. तो मेरी यही जुस्तजू है और गुजारिश है आदरणीय गुप्ता जी से कि कुछ हमारी मदद करें और ROW के मैकेनिज्म को सिंप्लीफाई करें और उसकी नॉन अवेलेबिलिटी में कुछ पीनल प्रोविजंस हों और जो उसकी प्राइस है वो रैशनलाइज हो, जिसकी जो मर्जी आती है। पुणे म्यूनसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन ले लेगा 4000 रुपया फीट मीटर, नासिक वाला ले लेगा 800 रुपये मीटर, जिसकी जब जो मुंबई BMC तो it's a menace. I know how painful and stressful it is for my colleague, the executive director of MTNL, because two of us, we trade together when it comes to enterprise segment of the telecom sector. So two of us trade together. So we know how difficult it is, and many times we rope in our resources to deploy wireless solutions. But having said this, wireless solutions, however modern they are, they will always have pose some or the other limitations. It has to be fiber, 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 fiber everywhere. आज के हालात ये हैं कि वाटर 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 एवरीवेयर, नॉट अ ड्रॉप टू ड्रिंक। करो क्या आप? सारा मटमैला पानी है, पूरा सिनेरियो इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, तो उसको स्ट्रीमलाइन करने की ज़रूरत है। और ये जो फाइबर एसेट क्रिएट हुआ है इस देश में एट अ कॉस्ट ऑफ अबाउट 25,000 crores, and people like Alphion, people like United Telecom, people like L&T, people like Sterlite, and maybe so many people have helped us in taking photonics to rural areas. And we'll discuss few more things on densification in the second half. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you. I have been a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Piyush has rightly pointed out that there is a need to look into the constraints, particularly the right of way to lay the optical fiber. One thing is sure, that optical fiber is very much required. It's a way forward, and we had to densify the optical fiber if we want to provide the good services, particularly the 5G services and also the state of art services which is going to happen. If right of way policies of the state government, which is primarily in a state subject, has to be looked into. The very, very important tool we have with us is the people of that particular state. And we had to target and educate those people that how optical fiber will provide the better services. We had to convince the state governments that how your state is going to be benefited if we adopt a simple right of way or the policy to lay the optical fiber. What benefits are likely to come? I think we are not able to project the proper business model to the state governments where they can be convinced that, okay, instead of taking everything upfront, there may be some revenue share models. There may be a method by which some sort of duct can be provided by the municipal corporations and all these things based on the requirement of telecom service providers, and a rental can be given. Because everybody, if he is asked to make his own house before he live in, will be difficult. But there are people who can build the houses and then people can take that on the rents. That could be one of the situation which may be there. But I will leave this thought to the industry to work further and try to see that how this particular problem or embargo can be sorted out, because optical fiber is required, and if we had to move forward and provide the impetus to the development of the country, this is one of the very important area which has to be looked into. I don't know whether I have a few minutes to open the floor for the question and answer, or we may leave it to the people who can talk to us of these separately. Okay, so we will utilize the tea time as a networking time as well, and then thank you very much, and over to Sridharan for further announcement.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, just a minute. Swati wanted some 30 seconds.
30 seconds, but I think...
Please, just 2 more minutes, just 2 more minutes.
Okay, 30 seconds. If there are possibilities of questions, sir has also asked. But I just wanted to say, sir, I was so inspired by what you said, and it just got me thinking, तो healthy India बनाएंगे, काफी लोग बोलते हैं, and progressive India बनाएंगे, both require fiber. You couldn't get more essential than that in terms of importance. So ROW has to dovetail right into that. If you want, we are saying water, that's what it is, right? So water, fiber, healthy and progressive India. It's all together.
Thank you. Over to
Thank you.
This particular session is relevance of optical fiber in the broadband driven economy and ease of doing business. I have a very enlightened panel with me with Mr. Piyush Khare joining very shortly, CGM Maharashtra of BSNL. We have Mr. Anuj Jain, Mr. Naveen Gupta with me, then Ms. Swati, and also Mr. Dr. Bharat Dave, Chairman and President and CEO, Alpheon. So, most of you would be thinking that you are getting lot many services with very low penetration of broadband even as of now. So, why broadband should be given such an important area that if broadband has to be given, the optical fiber is very much required. And what are the compelling reasons to adopt the optical fiber in telecom networks? So let me first of all go to Dr. Bharat Dave and ask his view that how he feels that broadband and particularly the optical fiber to the curb or to the home is so important if we move further in the present economy. Mr. Bharat.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've been working on fiber optics for over last 35 years. So when you asked a question about the relevance of fiber in a broadband, 13 years ago when we started working in India, when we used to go to basically telecom operator, we used to discuss a broadband speed and what do we define. At that time, the definition was more like 256 kbps was a broadband. A year later, we started talking about 512 kbps. The broadband is actually an internet access and how we use the internet. and how we used to basically communicate to each other, to use the applications. And that's where we like the real-time gratification. If I want something, if I click some button, I want to basically access the information real-time. In order to, all these bandwidth-hungry applications require a very large bandwidth. And there is only one medium which can provide a limitless bandwidth, is a fiber. Fiber provides a virtually unlimited bandwidth. And if you really want to basically be in the inaugural session, we heard about a lot of applications, the digital telecom policy, and all the vision about in the IoT devices, which requires many more touch points. All these devices, all these appliances, all these applications requires to communicate the data from point A to point B. And that requires a basically very large bandwidth. At the same time, all the explosion in the mobile networks going from 3G to 4G to 5G, as the speed increases, you basically start having this cell station closer to each other. And they also support a very high speed. With the 5G, we are talking about a 1 gig speed into a mobile network. All these appliances, whether it is a mobile or a fixed internet devices, they all require basically high-speed pipes. And that's where fiber comes into the picture. Without fiber, none of this will not be, fiber is viewed as an enabler of all these applications and services.
Thank you very much. So we have just listened to that why fiber is very, very important if you want to move ahead to provide good telecom services and also the different type of telecom services. Ms. Swati is with us, who is the Chief of the Corporate Affairs, Sterlite Technologies, and also the Chairman of the white paper which have been recently released. So Swati, will you like to share your thoughts on this particular topic, particularly that how we can enhance the use of the optical fiber in telecom networks, and what are the impediments or challenges we are facing as of now, and collectively how can we address these problems?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So first of all, it is commendable that the NDCP has just come out. And why I'm saying that is that the NDCP has recognized the importance of fiber, the importance of synergizing with other utilities, the importance of it being an essential infrastructure due to which obviously investments for the sector also becomes easier, and fiber as a public utility, which actually in itself will start easing a lot of the issues that we have. So I think if I look at where the broadband infrastructure goes right now, it is the way we deploy the fiber. So it is the quality of the fiber, quality of the product, the quality of the deployment, and the maintenance of it. So I would think that the ease of business, where the industry comes together, should really emphasize a lot now, and less on policy and more on now how do we detail out the processes, how do we make compliances far more stringent around fiber, and how do we secure it. I have a couple of thoughts around this. With the coming of 5G, with the coming of IoT, M2M, and just the sheer zettabyte era that we are coming into, we have got to also relook at the standards of the manufacturing of fiber, the R&D of fiber. And why I'm saying that, I mean, this is not yet spoken about too much, but I do think that it's important when we lay impact-proof, intrusion-proof, and very high-count fiber almost immediately. Fiber that would withstand about 40 years of data bandwidth, because once the roads are laid, there is no way that we can actually reopen and deploy again, because that's where it becomes very expensive. So having an infrastructure fund that invests in the rollout of this essential utility in synergies with other utilities, one. Secondly, ensuring that standards are held high and therefore the stringent compliance around that. And thirdly, I feel that, like I said, I mean, the deployment should be done in a fashion where it captures the interest of the TSPs of the government deployments that are taking place and the planners. If I may take just one more minute.
Sure.
I really feel that, you know, the government is actually outpowering in many ways the rollout of especially fiber, you know, with BharatNet, coming of NagarNet, GramNet, and so many other things. The government is outpowering the private sector. Therefore, the government, and sir, I recall once you making this comment that the government is a very big stakeholder in the rollout of deployment. I have not forgotten that. And I thought about it a lot. And therefore, it's important that ease of business in the government deployment space is very critical. And you know, you spoke about challenges. I would actually like to highlight a challenge here. The government and public sectors are increasingly ambitious about the rollout of fiber and fiber deployments. But the processes that you know, go around any government projects are exceedingly cumbersome. Let's take the RFP process, the unpredictability of time, the approval processes, and of course ROW and so many other things. There's a lot that actually goes behind government deployments, and at the same time the government deployment becomes very central to not only the private sector but also the citizen. So my humble suggestion is that when we are looking at ease of business, I think a lot of focus has to come into how we can simplify government processes around this deployment and bring in far more quality to it. So that's my thought.
So thank you, Swati. Now to Mr. Gupta. You know, general perception of good quality or bad quality, it always with the telecom service provider that they are not providing the good quality of the broadband, and what problem they are facing at the back end, that's a very different issue. So as a provider of telecom services, the challenge is not only that you are supposed to bring the new services which are user friendly to the consumers, but also create the infrastructure at the back end transparently, which can meet the requirement and aspirations of the consumers. So where you find yourself and what type of problems you face, and what are your thoughts and suggestions in this particular regard?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. You see, in terms of challenges, any business, any rollout definitely has challenges. But the way, I'll just take a minute in terms of how GigaFiber, this is the third revolution after voice data, as a part of the company, which we are, you know, the way we will redefine broadband space. And you must have seen probably, you know, here a glimpse of the same. When we have to roll it out, so one piece is the infrastructure building, second is in terms of products and services. The third and most critical part, one of the most critical part, is ensuring the services which are created flawlessly are executing and customer is able to enjoy it uninterruptedly. He is able to subscribe, he is able to change as per his convenience. So in terms of the moment we define that critical path, in terms of what it means to us, the entire energy works towards that. So for example, I'd like to quote one simple example. When we say, you know, the challenges, I'll come to the immediately challenges, when what it means to us. It means to us ultra high speed, ultra definition, high definition television on larger screens, movies on larger screens. That is part number one. So the challenge is how do we ensure consistently that consumer is able to watch high definition movies, television, not on one television, but on a multiple screens. So how do we ensure the bandwidth starting from his television right up to the head end flawlessly, that should continue. So that is one piece of the area in terms of the network design. So one has to really focus on that part. Multi-party video conferencing sitting in your, from your home itself. So how do we get multiple people, not only just one home, multiple homes together in one communication where you can communicate in real time. So you need to bring that sort of and in a simplicity manner. So that's where the addition of the simplicity which we have to really solve, and that's where we'll be able to move further. Third one in terms of, if you look at this, voice assisted virtual reality is a way of working. So the biggest complexity, if we don't offer those kind of products and simplicity to consumer, by building the complexity which we have at the back end, will not be able to move. So how meticulously we address that, how do we define that experience and integrate system, be it consumer device, be it our own devices in terms of router, modem, or the backend system. So that is the third part of challenges in terms of defining the scope of area and to solve those part. Fourth part in terms of now we are looking at this is a broadband. So broadband, the biggest challenge which we have, why broadband? Is 100 Mbps, 1 gig is a broadband? Or is it just a gigafiber, just 1 Gbps? Answer is yes and no. It is. But what we need to really do it, there has to be a compelling reasons for customer to really appreciate. So the challenge for us to really further, push the envelope. So virtual reality gaming, digital shopping, which will allow one to transport into a digital universe and have immersive experience. So how do we define and implement that part and make sure the consumer is able to understand and appreciate? So one side we have a lot of fiber getting implemented, but how the biggest challenge right now is how do we make each a common man understand the importance of that particular fiber? So these are the key challenges which we come across whenever we are rolling it out. So one side on the technology, on the systems, on the processes part, the biggest part which we as a company, we as a country, which we need to really look at this, how do we make a common man understand what it means to them? I'll just end with a story, small story. My personal experience. My father, who is from a very small, town in UP, he was here at my home. He's 75 years plus. So when he came over here, at their place, we don't have a computer, laptop or desktop there. It's just a mobile phone, and on mobile phone, we normally chat and interact. So when he came over here, and when he comes and stay with us, so he getting exposed to how to cast videos to television. He normally every day morning, there is a Murli, Brahmkumari, he follows Brahmkumari. So when he saw the opportunity, how he can see live video, how he can enjoy all those, streaming services, high definition quality of old movies, now he's able to, watch on television. Even if we are not there, it's so convenient. So when he goes back, what he asked me, he never asked about what I'm doing, what it means, what broadband means. Now he keeps asking me, when is the gigafiber is coming to home here at UP in a small town? I think that's what the biggest challenge we have, we as a company and we as a country, which we need to address, and we are addressing that. You must have seen the glimpse over here. That's all. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. That is very, very important that we had to tell and convince the users that what we are going to give, and for that what is required. Because when we are talking about that different societies are not giving permission for the laying of the optical fiber, or there are similar other problems, or this not being shared and all these things. I think first of all, a message has to go that what you are going to provide by that, because many people are unaware about that how their life is going to be changed by simple laying of the optical fiber, and how they will be more important parameters in their life to enjoy the various things which they are not able to do without the optical fiber. And more so, we many times feel like that village areas and all these things may not have that much potential and all these things. If we had to remove the digital divide and provide the similar type of services across different areas, I think the broadband is very important for the rural population, perhaps maybe more than what is required for the urban, because there you can communicate very powerfully the different informations through the use of the video and content. Now coming back to Dr. Dave, because you are primarily on the technology side and all these things, we are talking too much that now 5G is going to come, and we are very aggressively looking at that, okay, 5G may be implemented in India, not always we have been lagging for 3G, 4G. So at least this time, if we are not leading at it, we should not lag behind. And therefore, we are taking a target of around 20 to 22 that we will be implementing 5G, which primarily to me includes two things: ultra high speed broadband, and also connection, machine to machine communication. Large number of the devices will be connected. So how optical fiber is going to play an important role for launch of 5G? Are we ready? And if not, what all has to be done for that?
So I think when you talk about 5G, you're talking about a speed of 1 gig to 10 gig on a mobile devices. Right now, India has just witnessed actually transformation to 4G. We haven't been able to actually take advantage of 4G speed yet. If you look at the 4G speed connectivity in India compared to 4G connectivity in Japan or US, you will see basically 5 to 8 times difference. It's sheerly because the network is still being built out. And as Mr. Gupta said that once you start actually putting a fiber and start using a lot of users and 4G devices onto the access network, they start putting a lot of stress and bandwidth requirement onto the core and metro. So unless the core and metro are ready to support that backhaul, which requires a fiber, only the fiber-based backhaul can basically support. So unless they are ready, we will not be able to basically appreciate the value and user experience. The users don't care whether it is a 2G, 3G, 4G, or 5G, or 6G. They also don't care whether it is a copper or fiber. What they are looking for is a user experience. They are transparent to what technology we deploy. But when it comes to basically 5G, a lot of trials are going on into US and Europe and also Japan and also to a certain extent in China. I think the backbone and the backhaul network has to be ready in order to basically make the 5G a reality. In the meantime, I think Jio has taken a phenomenal lead and actually a bold step and telling to the country that yes, we need this and we are ready to invest. And I think that kind of mindset and the vision is required to basically bring 5G to India. And I think the government is doing everything possible. I think if I look at the government in other countries, compared to that, our Indian government is a very FTTX friendly. And all policies, if you start looking at starting from the no fund to the smart cities to knowledge network, all the fiber-based broadband pipes and the highways are being created. They are conceived and they are being implemented to basically support the fiber to the future. Okay.
So thank you very much, Mr. Dave. Now, Swati, if I come back to you and ask that while optical fiber is very, very important, many people are asking for the optical fiber and all these things, and still we have certain optical fiber available in our country, but their utilization is not as good as it should be. So do you feel certain reasons for not being utilized and any lessons to be learned by the stakeholders, or you feel that something else is to be done so that we can enhance the utilization, particularly from the ease of doing business point of view?
Yes, I think there is a lot to be done, and there is a little bit of a legacy here. We have been largely a wireless country because the entire revolution was on voice. So the need for fiber is a recent phenomena, right? But that said, the recent phenomena of data that the country is generating and consuming means that we need to fast deploy optical fiber. And that means, again, it comes back to ease of business. So fast deployment means we really don't have much time in terms of deliberating too much around operational or rather strategic frameworks that can help fast-paced deployment and efficient usage of funds and resources. So I would think that if I look at my top asks, I would think that India should invest right now itself, start investing in SDN kind of architecture or architecture which kind of leapfrogs directly into 5G, where it is already fiber dominant, it is software neutral, and what have you. And I'm sure the next panel is going to talk more about that. At the same time, operationally, if we take literally within a month, work something out and take very strong steps to figure out how to solve grunge around the process issues that are there. So that means, synergies of city maps, how do we roll out, if there is common ducts being rolled out in certain areas, let's start rolling. Let's not wait for the ducts to get spoiled before we start putting the fiber. And I go back to the same thing. I mean, I remember an ad a long time ago. I'm not sure which bike it was, but This was when I was in college, but it was something like fill it, shut it, forget it, right? It was to do with petrol. In the same way, I would say lay the fiber, shut it, forget it for a while, and therefore the quality of the product matters. I'm going back to the same thing. I feel it comes back to the way we redefine the architecture, the way we recognize fiber in the cities, the getting private sector to actually roll out fiber. That means incentivizing them. I mean, the private sector is getting taxed in a big way around telecom. So is there a way to incentivize their rollout of fiber? And tell all the municipal corporations pretty much to say that, hey, it is your city. You are going to benefit. So how do we solve ROW? So, sir, there is one thing that is coming up, which is the ROW portal. I feel that if the industry and the government work really fast in solving that and adapting it, center, state, city, the ROW portal itself will ensure fast rollout.
Thank you, Swati. On coming on the ROW issue, I think there is a very, very important need to make them aware that how giving right of way to the telecom operators will bring good services for their own consumers, particularly the citizens of their state. In this particular regard, while digital telecom policy was being formed, the TRAI has given a recommendation that there is a need to have connectivity index of the states and put the connectivity index of the states on some portal so that you can tell to the public that your state is lagging or leading. So that this drives the political leadership of the state to move this particular direction and ensure that good connectivity is given to the people of the state, and naturally it means that ease of giving the right of way so that people can provide the connectivity. I think a lot of deliberations by the stakeholders can be done in this direction so that we can make certain concrete steps to ensure that right of way is made easy so that people can provide the optical fiber, and also cost effective, because I am told by some of the colleagues that the cost of right of way varies drastically from state to state and it is very prohibitive. So this in fact results not to provide the optical fiber because it doesn't make an economic sense to do that. Now with us Mr. Piyush Khare, who is the CGM Maharashtra. They have done a lot of work to use the optical fiber to provide different